So Sam, here at the Beat Retreat, there's been a lot of talk about sort of buying across platforms, buying across screens, and as a way for buyers to reach their audiences. What are some of the challenges inherent with cross-screen planning and buying right now?
Well, I mean, so we've talked about this before. It's the chessboard, right? It's the 3D chessboard of you've got inventory that exists in lots of unique places, in some walled gardens, some not in walled gardens. You've got audiences that are very fragmented and disparate. And then you have measurement solutions that are also equally fragmented and disparate. And so what we're trying to do is string something through that 3D chessboard so that we can build very bespoke solutions for clients. And so the challenge is not every platform has the same audience capabilities and the same measurement capabilities. And so some of this is important because aligning those things, most importantly, with consumption of media and marketers' goals and marketers' customers, that's a challenge.
Where are you seeing some of the opportunities for low-hanging fruit to make that vision a reality for your buyers?
Well, I'll tell you the first place that we start. I mean, we look at overall consumption of video, and it's dominated by a handful of players. So it's a Google, it's a Netflix, and then from there it gets a little more bifurcated. I mean, you have a handful of media conglomerates, and then there's a fairly sizable long tail. I will tell you, we always focus on the fat tail. We focus where the big guys are, and when you have scale, when you have consumption, you also have targeting and the ability to do suppression. And then generally speaking too, it's a little bit easier to measure when you've got scale. Fragmentation is the enemy of measurement. It's the enemy of onboarding data, all that kind of stuff. So scale, really important. The second piece, you need, we love publishers and content providers that have a relationship with the end consumer that gets you better data fidelity. And then, if you have those things, generally you have measurement. And I think, all those things go together. Scale really does matter because it gives you the targeting and the precision and the measurement.
Sometimes it seems like agencies are at a disadvantage because they're kind of stuck between buyers and what buyers want to do and sellers and what sellers want to do, and also stuck between their various technology wants and needs. How is your agency approaching that? Are you guys sort of working on some of your own tech?
Well, so I think of us as an integrator to a certain extent. I mean, the answer is no. We first of all, the marketplace is developing incredible tech. So I think the key is to focus on who is constantly innovating. I think the biggest piece is going deep with a handful of partners. And when you go deep with a handful of partners, you're not just simply talking about bits, but you're actually talking about the problem you're trying to solve. So if we're talking about technology, we're generally in the wrong place. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to instrument measurement, you have to instrument audiences and those things. That's very important. But at the end of the day, it comes down, what is the marketer trying to solve? And what's unique today is consumption of media is so varied across the country that you really have to do things in a very bespoke way. Because there's not, in the olden days, it was pretty straightforward. I mean, there were a handful of TV networks, you went out and bought media, you either bought local or national. Now you have a lot of choices. And so understanding just the consumer, who they are, where they are, how they consume, is a great base point. And then you can work with your partners and you can go deep to solve those things. So talking about the technology, that's the how. You really need to talk about the who and the what in all of this.
And it sounds less like building your own stack, more like creating the right stack for your clients based on what they need, right?
Yeah, we morph the stack to whatever the client needs. I mean, I think at the end of the day, one is we have a benefit being an independent agency. Our mousetrap, honestly, is providing good counsel to clients, on the marketing side. And I'm going to start there because I think there's a lot of shiny objects in our industry, and you have to be very wary of the shiny object, of doing something for the sake of doing it. So I think the first piece is, what are you trying to achieve? Who are you trying to reach? What is your proposition? And then where is your consumer? And I'll tell you, that's the most interesting thing to me about it is, we're in a digital world, and so people tend to think about things as impressions or views or clicks. Those are consumers. So you have to really kind of break it down. Who are they and where are they? And so I'll give you a perfect example. We have a client that we recently won, and they are a national brand. But when you look at the footprint of the brand, it's not national. In fact, one market makes up 20% of their business. And when you zoom into that market, 60% of the consumers are Spanish or bilingual, and using Spanish. So it's not as simple. I mean, that's a complex thing already, because you're talking about demography. Now, if you went to another part of the country, you might find that the demography is completely different. And so when you think about that kind of framework, if you're doing it from the bottom up, from a customer standpoint, then you can build the solutions to fit that. And I think when you think about the business that we're in, our job is to make sure the impressions fall against the most important customers in the most important places, so that it aligns with the impact for the business. And I think that's one of the challenges in our industry right now is we tend to do things from top down. And when you do that, impressions don't fall evenly unless you make them fall in the places that you want them to fall against the customers you want them to fall.
So the last question then would be, have we ever had effective cross-screen planning and buying before? And if not, how soon are we getting to effective cross-screen planning?
So one is, I think cross-screen planning is an aspirational goal for all of us. And no one, I think, has any of this nailed. I think, and the other thing is that if you're doing it right, what I'd say is what you're trying to plan for is right now. And I think that's a really important point. We're not building a rocket ship to the moon for a year or 2 years or 3 years now. You have to understand the media consumption at that point in time. And so when you go build plans, what you hope is that you have enough signals from a cross-screen standpoint that you can measure those signals. And it is a lot of triangulation, both in the planning side and the measurement side. So what we're doing is we are building a stack of partners where we can do cross-screen planning. And again, it's not a single platform, it's multiple platforms. And then when we look at the channels that we buy, and everywhere from linear TV all the way to connected TV all the way to mobile, how do we activate those cross-screen insights? And then when we go activate the actual media itself, sometimes it is very channel specific. Sometimes we can use platforms and tools to measure across those things. A lot of it depends on the framework of the media itself. And there's not one solution, there are multiple. We have the benefit in this industry to have multiple great solutions. And so when you look at ultimately at the partners you've chosen, the screens you've chosen, those things, then you try to line up, the measurement partners, the audience activation partners that best align with what you're trying to do. And I think that's the way we think of it is we're trying to have a menu so that we can customize it to what the client needs and to what the plan is, that's going to be activated.